Hello, this is Doc Severson for the ReadySetCrypto OMNIA newsletter market update for the last day of the year, Tuesday, 31st of December. What do we have here with Bitcoin US dollar? We have an absolutely flat market coiling around the 7,200 level for the last 13 days now. We have a lot of energy built up. This is all non-linear price action. So we should get a fairly decent move coming from here pretty soon. Don't know if it's going to take the calendar ticking over to get volatility kicking up. I don't know why that would be any big deal right now. There is no real incentive to sell anything. If you go back a year to where we started 2019 here, really haven't had any big moves that people have to look to take tax loss selling. Remember, there's a big difference once you get past a year. That's when people, so people that bought down here and sold up in this area, well, those are going to be short-term gains. But if you bought something a year ago and are still holding it, well, you might want to be holding on to it a little bit longer. So I don't think we're going to be seeing any tax loss selling just because the new year ticks over. I think it's going to be more of the case where range contraction moves to range expansion. So do we have another case for a straddle? So we talked about a straddle back here in the earlier part of December, and right around the energy peak that we had a really nice little move down to retest that 6,500 level. So this may be another case for a straddle. Let's take a look here. Because just having energy alone is not enough for setting up a straddle. So one of the things that I like to do is look over at the site called skew.com in the Bitcoin options and see whether or not we have any implied volatility spikes. And unfortunately, we do. And I'm going to have to reset this one. Let's go through and reset this because I want you guys to see what this looks like default. And you can see this a little bit better when we kind of compress it all. Eventually, this will come in. All right, there we are. So what we're looking for here is BTC USD, implied volatility versus realized. And what we want to do is if we're going to set up a straddle, we want to set it up during relative low periods of implied volatility. Relative low periods. So this was the last time that we talked about setting up a straddle. So what's this now? We're starting to see implied volatility tick up. And perhaps this is because the year is ticking over, because, people are just assuming that January is going to be more volatile. I don't know the reason for this. But if we zoom in on this area here, let's see if I can do that. Let's zoom in on this. You can see implied volatility is setting up to be a relative high. So right now, this is not a good time to set up a straddle because, as we'll see, the options are kind of going to be a little bit more expensive. So if we go over to Deribit, if we set up a straddle, now if you want to set up a short-term straddle, this is going to be more responsive and it's going to be less expensive. So those are two very good possibilities, or two positive attributes to this, to a short-term straddle of 10 January. The problem is that it's got to move before that point. So let's see how expensive that straddle would be if we say the price is about 71.60 right now. The closest strike to that is, well, I guess it's going to be the 72.50. And so we're going to be looking at spending roughly for one contract of BTC. I'm just going to roughly add these together. I'm going to say $180 for the calls. And then over here, we're going to have the puts, and those are going to be roughly, let's just say $255. So about $435 for a full contract of this, or you could actually go down to a tenth of a contract for $43.50. But that's kind of the expected move. It's going to have to move at least that much. So as we look at this, as we look at the price of Bitcoin versus the US dollar, can we get a $500 move between now and the 10th of January? So if we look at this as about 7,200, can we get something down here to maybe 6,500? Yeah, that's more than the expected move of 435. And then can we get a move that's maybe $500 from here? That would be about 7,700. Yeah, I'd say that's so right now, even though it's a relative peak of implied volatility, this is not a bad time. It again is a speculative move, but range contraction leads to range expansion, and we should get a move here fairly soon. We're kind of overdue for a little bit of a move. You can see that this will build up in energy, and we're just about there. So maybe in the next day or two, this might be, especially if the implied volatility gets into the new year, maybe we'll see that come down just a little bit. So maybe if we wait until Thursday or Friday, it might be a better edge for us to set up that straddle and look for that little pop in volatility. That's either going to be a retest of the 6,500 level or another test of this descending trend line. So again, guys, right now, I mean, this is not a great market environment. We just don't have a whole lot of coins just bolting higher. This is not 2017 again. This is kind of one of these dreary, ugly, corrective pattern markets, and it just will drive people nuts. And it's very similar to what we went through, around this time a year ago. We went through this for months. It was just like, okay. And even before that, it was bad. It's been bad for the last 2 years. Let's be honest here. And, we just had to sort of live through this drip, 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 look for divergences through this really weak price action. And then all of a sudden we were rewarded by getting some really nice impulsive price action to the upside. That was great. Okay. So market's got to go through the same thing. It's got to go through its weeding out process, and we will be rewarded. So right now our job is not to sit there and hold and hope and whine and wait for the upside. It's to seek alpha, find ways to make money based on movement. And that's in either price, time, or volatility. Everybody be careful tonight. It's amateur hour. No newsletter tomorrow. We're taking the day off, and then we'll be back here on Thursday. Adios. See you next year.